docket.
So we got to talk about what happened this week on the Howie Mandel Show.
Okay.
So if y'all not familiar with Howie Mandel,
We are not.
you know, I thought you knew who Howie was.
No,
when we
I'm
talked
just
about.
speaking for black people.
Salute,
I'm just a black
salute,
voice.
Salute. So Howie Mandel, he is a comedian, also like a TV personality, if you will, who has kind of just taken his stardom next level.
Is Howie Mandel the game show host, the one with the suitcases?
I believe, yeah, he used to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Deal or No Deal?
Yes, Deal or No Deal. No Deal. That's that dude.
But he did a bunch of acting too. So on his podcast months ago, he had a man by the name of Billy Corgan, I believe that's his name is. I want to make sure I'm pulling it up correct. But he is a musical artist where he does things like, you know, play guitar, things like that. And he was on the show and he told Howie a story. Billy Corgan. He told Howie a story before the show that he asked him to share on the show. And that was that his stepmom told him some important information that connected him and Bill Burr. So I want to play the clip and then I want to get what your thoughts on it and kind of have an even bigger conversation about how performances are done within culture when conflict arises.
Mm-hmm.
Who's here?
Oh, hey, what's up?
Sit down.
You're an asshole.
Billy Corgan. Billy Corgan.
Yeah.
I'm an asshole?
Yeah,
I thought this would be great to bring a family together.
He didn't tell you. He told me you were totally cool with me coming.
That's what he does. That's what he does.
I thought it would be
so
a
then,
good
like,
surprise.
can this be like edited out, or no?
I can go. I mean, you told me Bill was.
All right, fuck it. No, I'll do it. Like, did you ever think the fact that I never told that story, that, you know, maybe you shouldn't? Did you ever? You know how many fucking like emails and crap that I got? Like, I sort of like went away from that.
So let me just fill in. Let me just fill in.
Do we talk on a regular basis?
We've never met.
So Billy Corgan was nice enough on my podcast to talk about the fact that he told a story that he had never told before, that his father traveled.
My stepmother said to me, "Do you know who Bill Burr is? Bill Burr might be one of the children that your father sired in his days on being a traveling musician."
If you do the math,
he was a piece of shit. And he had two kids this close together, and he named them the same fucking name. He thinks it's different because he's Billy and I'm Bill. Like, that's how he told the difference.
Well, I was Bill when I was young. But you're right. I mean, with all respect.
I just thought.
All right. Well, whatever. You know, it's not that I don't like him. It reminds me of all of that shit. So, you know,
it just seems more of the same from what I've been hearing.
All right, whatever. I mean, I like your music.
Appreciate that.
Okay, great.
Would you?
They don't even fuck with each other. Like Bill.
That was the first time they met. Yo, Howie is a scumbag.
He is.
That's exactly.
That's really messed up.
That is crazy. But that's the thing. In there, I don't want to make this when I say culture, I'm not making it a race, ethnicity. In that comedian, especially the white comedian culture, like that shit is acceptable though.
Yeah.
Like that shit doesn't end in a fight.
They do crazy shit to each other for content's sake. So they can have crazy stories to tell on stage that come off hilarious, because after you process this as a comedian, especially Bill Burr, he's hilarious. Mm-hmm. When he next stand-up special, if he talks about this, it's gonna be thought-provoking, it's gonna be funny, he's gonna find a way to make it amazing. So that's probably why he wasn't
you hear his tone though?
Upset. No, he is pissed off.
Upset. Like I could tell in his tone, like, yeah, I'll do this just because you caught me, but I'm not going to. This is not going to be something I talk about again. Like,
no,
that doesn't. Whatever that dad did or didn't do, like it had an effect.
It definitely did, because you can tell the reason he doesn't have a relationship with his brother is because of the pain that it causes him because of what his father did. Mm-hmm. So that's so weird. And then lying to the brother and telling him that Bill was okay with this and he's completely on board. Like, he was completely blindsided. Both of them were completely blindsided for your content. Like, these are actual human beings' lives.
But like I'm saying, like that's part of their kind of shtick. I don't even want to say shtick. That's like I said, that's part of their culture in a way. Because I don't know if you know who Ari Shaffir is. Ari Shaffir is cool with the Joe Rogan crew. He's the guy that said the tasteless joke about Kobe and his passing. He drugged Burt Kreischer, who's another comedian in that group, on one of the podcasts they were doing with Molly at his family's house. Like, he was at his house with his kids, his wife, and he drugged him in front of everybody. His wife was pissed off at Ari. Like, it was serious. But again, when they went on these podcasts and talked about it, it was always a joke.
When I saw I didn't know the like pre-story, but I saw the clip of like the person who was drugged telling the story, and he was laughing. It was a hilarious thing. Everyone was in the comments laughing. Now, like I said, they do fucked up shit to each other, and now it's content, and now they get to like tell a joke about it.
So why my thing was coming this when I was talking to my dad about this, and I had made a joke about, you know, playing a joke like that on one of my friends. He was like, yo, you can't do that with a brother, because a black man, regardless of his social economic status, if you pull a card like that, like, it's going to get in violence.
No, it's not.
You don't think so?
No, it's not going to get violent, because not all black men of any social economic status would resort to violence in the first place.
In regards to you pulling on a string like this, we're not talking about making fun of my car, my job. We're talking about you bringing in a family member who has ties to extremely emotional things. Like, if I did that to one of my friends and they dad that they're not really close with, they'd punch me in my face.
I am very adamantly against what you're saying, that every black man would resort to violence in that situation.
Let's say the overarching majority.
No, I don't think that is the case either. I think there is a maybe like a 30, 35 at most % chance that it would get violent. I think it wouldn't be this calm. It would be like niggas would be cursing each other out 100%. It would get a little bit volatile, but I don't think hands would be put on each other for this specific thing.
The other day, there was a town hall meeting in a suburb outside of Chicago her name is Tiffany. I forgot her last name. She's a mayor of the city. She's actually been strifed in controversy her entire 10 years mayor.
They're calling her the worst mayor ever.
Yeah. A dude calls her out her name at the event, and her boyfriend assaults him. Cameras everywhere. News everywhere. This is a publicized event. She even jumps into the fight.
Hood boogers.
That is that's kind of what I'm speaking to.
I think it's really weird that you're saying that like a majority of black men would get violent over this situation. I genuinely do. I don't think that would be the case. I think most people would probably just remove themselves from the situation and just get up and walk out. Like, what is going on here?
When it comes to an attack, a personal direct attack, you add the cameras, you add the cachet, you add what can happen to a black man in that position if that embarrassment gets traction, what he can lose. Yeah, you see more often than not that ends in violence.
I think the black man knows what he can lose if he is violent. So I think
Will Smith smack Chris Rock in the face.
That was one thing.
I can go down a list of high profile black men who have resulted in violence.
But I
can speak to Will Smith a few times.
Most of the black men that I know in my actual real life would not be violent over something like this. They would remove themselves from the situation. They would curse everybody out in the situation, and then they would not put themselves in, like, they would just cut that person off. Like, I'm not
trying to make a sweeping like, oh, we're just these brutes. I'm talking about when we specifically go narrow down into this culture and we look at the black men that come from this kind of entertainment, they generally have a history of coming from poverty.
So you're trying to take it down to just like black comedian podcaster men.
Affluent black men. We can go through affluent black men being pushed in these certain situations, and more often than not, you can find instances where violence or aggression took over rather than what you're saying. They'll walk away or let me get out. Like, you see that.
If you're talking about affluent black men, okay,
we're talking about, we go Malice in the Palace. I believe 9 times out of 10, if that would have been...
I don't think sports needs to be taken into it, because I could literally give you like pull up a hockey compilation of white men being violent as a motherfucker.
But that's part of the game.
And
I'm talking about when he went into the stands.
But let's talk about let's stick to like rappers, comedians, actors, like because I think athletes there's lots of adrenaline going on in their fields. So let's stick to other people. When you talk about like Will Smith, give me another example like that.
Gentleman was doing like a little interview. He got kind of close to him. I don't know if he kissed him or whatever. I know he did something affectionate to him, and Will slapped him.
Will
Smith.
Okay,
he slapped the interviewer.
Let's leave Will Smith.
I'm just telling you another example.
No,
Will Smith.
I'm trying to because that just proves that Will Smith has anger issues. It doesn't prove that black men in this field have anger issues. So give me other examples of other black men who aren't Will Smith, who have been in front of a camera and been put in a compromising situation, who resorted in violence.
Well, I just thought the WillMith one, and then
if you have no other examples
than
Will Smith,
those were the ones that came to the forefront of it. But
like Will Smith is the problem.
I can think of a few podcasts. There was another podcast. Well, these guys aren't as high profile, but it was another podcast where remember the dude was talking trash and he came and punched him in the face while he was talking trash on the podcast. Like you can go to plenty.
Are these not famous people, or are these just regular niggas that you're talking about? Because you wanted to put
they're famous.
This
they're
a specific
people
box.
They're people in entertainment. Yeah. They're people
okay, because I wanted to stay in the box that you drew.
We can also go to any kind of. There's been a few times on No Jumper where
none of them niggas are famous. Cut, move on. Cut and move on.
We're not talking about being on camera
from
and embarrassing.
Will Smith to No
I'm not
Jumper.
talking about Adam. I'm talking about people who are on No Jumper.
That's even worse.
I'm just going with their action.
Because only the most bottom of the barrel clout chasing ass SoundCloud rapper ass niggas go on No Jumper. Let's move on. Like Will Smith is still the only example you have.
Okay, what we want to do? Offset every time he's been.
Okay.
There's been plenty of times Offset in the Migos in themselves. Anytime they was tried, Joe Budden.
That's a good example. Yeah.
Tons of times. So I mean, again, there's more people that we can go to.
That is a good example. Okay.
XXXTentacion had instances of similar thing where he got tried, he got a camera and started trying to people back. So I mean, this isn't this hip hop culture. You can take it to a whole bunch of different places, but this happens. We've seen it. We've seen where disrespect results in our culture more often than not in violence than it does like, oh, I'll get you on the back end. Very few times you see the Michael Jackson, I'll just buy your catalog approach.
Which niggas need to take that approach
we
more
don't
because
got the capital.
It hits different. And Drake tried to do that same thing, but I don't know. It didn't work out for you. Now you
And so I don't want it to sound like I'm trying to be overly critical on black men in that situation because I understand the rigors of getting to that position and then feeling like, oh, I can't lose this.
Yeah.
And then you get into all this other stuff that happens where it's like now you're defending your pride, you're defending your ego, and it takes over too much. And it just becomes a trend in our community that you don't see as much publicly in their communities. They'll turn that into money to them, which it seems like. They'll turn it into a movement for them.
But then in their community, they don't have the same like barometer of aggression. Like people will be this aggressive and people will take it as this, and then they'll be this aggressive and people will take it as this. Like they have more leeway than we do.
That. I understand. To me it was just very interesting. Like unless you go to the trailer parks of white people in regards to that, you can get an immediate reaction, of course. But it just seems as though
disenfranchised people are always a little bit more aggressive.
for the same group of people in the same type of environment. Granted, I understand too. A lot of those guys, especially when we talk about entertainment and sports, came from places that were not the best, and so you didn't learn how to respond to particular triggers. That kind of way.
You don't have healthy coping mechanisms.
On the other side, they may have not been as down bad, but they still lived in an environment that was close to more affluent people. They got to see certain examples of things, and so that's probably another reason that would go into it. But I just thought it'd be interesting to point that out. Yeah, and just kind of had that conversation.
That was an interesting conversation.
Yeah, you try to paint me like I was fucking Uncle Ruckus.
I think it was an interesting conversation regardless because I didn't know where you were going with that, and I was just very confused because I didn't like the way you were wording that, but I liked the way you cleared it up in the end.
Well, I do my thing, you know.